Oh, my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Show, featuring Clay Hall with an inset. And actually, he looks bigger on screen than we do today, Clay.
Yeah.
Bill Bender of the Sporting News,
Great to
kind enough to join us on every edition of the Tim May Show is a special edition, right? But man, Bill, thank you once again for joining the Tim May Show, my brother.
Hey, I appreciate it, Tim. Clay, good to talk to you guys. How's it going?
Good.
With me, it's going sideways. I spent last week down in North Carolina, right on the coast, Sneed's Ferry, right by Camp Lejeune. Did not drink the water. I drank bottled water. Just joking. But I was babysitting my daughter's house while she and her significant other are captain in the Marine Corps. By the way, in special ops in the Marine Corps, so I don't mess with him at all. I go, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I salute him coming in, salute him going out. But we didn't really. I was down there when all the big storm hit, and we didn't really get anything down there. Now all of a sudden, this weekend they may get 8 inches of snow on Saturday.
That's right.
I mean, this is right on the coast, man. It's crazy. And I know my man over here, Clay Hall, Clay Cephas, as I call him on this show for the Southern audience, is headed to Eastern Pennsylvania to babysit or hang out and do good things. And where are you headed, Bill?
This weekend?
Yeah.
I'll be around the 270 loop as usual. I think the kids have been out of school all week. So
yeah, you've had your own vacation.
We'll get a couple basketball games. Oh, and then we're taking as you know, I coach that 6th grade girls basketball team. We're going to go to the Ohio State women's game on Sunday. That's always fun. It's always fun to take the team over there right before we do like our last couple season-ending tournaments. It's always fun to see their faces and watch them watch the Ohio State women's team. So that should be fun as well. I believe they're playing Nebraska.
All right, the Huskers.
Right, yeah.
Now, I interrupted you, Clay. What did you say your modus operandi is this week?
Well, no, I was just going to say with the cyclone bomb ready to go off on the mid-Atlantic.
That's what I'm talking about.
I think PA is going to escape that. It's funny. I booked the flight, and I was like, no, we're going to drive. Then I was like, oh, I got to take the car in. We need an alignment. They didn't anyway. I'm going to end up driving for a bit here. And just a quickie. By the way, the college lacrosse season opens on Saturday.
Wow.
And that's why Judd Hall will be in Colorado Springs, Colorado, as they take on the Air Force Academy, and his wife will be on call. So you got Hall and Hall taking care of those precious little babies that are now 2.5. So going to be good.
So when you have breakfast every morning, you eat oatmeal, I think, for breakfast, right? So do you call that your Hall and Oats moment? I digress.
You want to sing Sarah?
Yeah, exactly. By the way, kudos to the people that clear the roads, because I was paranoid about driving back, because I drive everywhere I can anymore. I was paranoid about driving back on the from North Carolina to Columbus, because, of course, you take the West Virginia Turnpike unless you want to go all the way around the world. And
right.
I was paranoid about that roller coaster. You've been on there before, Bill, but man, just the way they cleared the roads is stunning. But I want to tell you something. My perusal of storm conditions for this past weekend, without a doubt, Central Ohio got the most snow of any region I drove through, and we all survived, right? How about you, Bill? Did you survive?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a week of in the house. You get a lot around. Then you get to a point where you're like, all right, I want to. This is enough. I want to get out and do the thing. A lot of things got canceled this week, but we managed at Sporting News to get a couple things in. Wrote a couple, kind of like getting Super Bowl prep ready, essentially, because we have a week in between, and then a couple other things we did at Sporting News this week. I got to talk to Jim Craig about that. If you're looking for something to do tonight and you're stuck in your house,
there you go.
Watch the Miracle Boys of 80 documentary. I got a chance to pre-screen that, talk to Jim Craig. It's a lot like Miracle. It's it's unbelievable what they did that night, and you get a lot of reaction from those players who are now, a lot of those guys are in their 60s. So it's another chance to relive that moment. It was really cool.
You know what? I'm trying to remember. by the way.
We pop in that Miracle all the time.
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember. I swear I watched that game, and then I had to go to work. And when I got to work, I told everybody, we won. And I swear I watched it because did they show it live and then show it on replay later in the evening?
And you watched it in the afternoon.
Right, exactly. Al Michaels. I was telling Al Michaels, I mean, I got to meet Al Michaels a couple of years ago and stuff, and I was just telling him, what a great call that was. I mean, putting you on the map. And he still does great calls. But the bottom line was I remember two guys in the office at the Dispatch got all upset at me because I said, let them know we won. Know. And one guy goes, oh, man, like that. Don't ruin it for us. But
yeah, but if you know it's a dub.
Isn't it crazy, though, how that game still sticks in your brain, Bill? I mean, isn't it? And by the way, who did this documentary? I mean, is it all new? I mean, as in, what are these guys doing today kind of thing? How would you describe it?
Well, if you had a chance to watch the Russian one on the ESPN 30 for 30 on the Russian side of it, it's very similar. They take, Eruzione, O'Callahan, Craig, Vercoda, all these names that streamed into our consciousness are interviewed, and they go through, a lot about Herb Brooks obviously too. But I wanted to talk to Jim Craig and got a chance to, the thing that's most amazing about that game to me is he had 36 saves. And when you're a goalie parent, which I am, you understand the high degree of difficulty that was. So getting in his brain about that. And he said something really interesting. He said, something you have to understand is that the Soviets at the time, you guys watch hockey, you watch the Blue Jackets. They said they didn't just take a slap shot to take one. He said every time they shot the puck, they were trying to score. And you guys were talking about what you were doing. I was barely alive when it happened. I was less than 1 year old. Somebody asked me this week, they said, why do you care so much about that? And I think the best answer is, it was passed down to me, and now it's passed down to like my kids. I'll give you an example. I was at a St. Charles DeSales game a couple weeks ago, last week. It's Jersey night in the stands for the kids, the high school kids, and there's 3 or 4 Team USA jerseys, so it's one of those things. I don't know that another sports moment's been passed down quite like that one.
Yeah.
It's the way it made you feel.
Yeah.
And to see, and I love at the end of Miracle when they say the line about the coach, and he didn't see the movie, he lived it.
Yeah.
And it just, oh my God.
Yeah.
There's just so many things in that movie. I was thinking about it today when Herb says to Craig Patrick, I'm not looking for the best players, Craig. I'm looking for the right ones.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to put this superstar on the team, wasn't going to put that one. And Craig Patrick's just apoplectic, and he picked the right ones, obviously.
Yeah, I think the reason it mattered was USA. That was the height of the Soviet Union, or might have already been started on the downslide of the Soviet Union. But I mean, it was so huge. There were so many political implications around the Olympics. Then remember, the United States did not attend the 1980 Summer Games, which were, there was 80 games. So 1980 games in Moscow, and so it was a weird time in a lot of ways. But the USA was never considered a world power in hockey until then. And this is what really always floors some people when they've heard about that game and they've watched it and they've watched the movie, but not tonight. That's my favorite line. Not tonight.
You are all born.
Kurt Russell. I thought Kurt Russell was really good in that movie.
So good.
That just got them into the finals. They didn't win the gold medal. They had to win the finals. What did Craig say about that, Bill? In terms of they had to get up for another game and they fell behind in that game. Go ahead.
That's good. Like in the documentary, he'll talk about it as well. It's like, unlike Miracle and a lot of these other documentaries, they spend a pretty considerable chunk on the Finland game, on the fact that, hey, they had to go win another one. And Craig said, he's like, nobody remembers. We were down 2-1 after 2 periods and getting booed. He goes, nobody remembers that. And I thought that was really interesting. Then they obviously finished the deal. It'd be like, to kind of bring it back to college football a little bit, let's say it would have been a lot like Ohio State in 14 beating Alabama than losing to Oregon.
Correct.
That you had to finish it at that point. And obviously Ohio State finished that run pretty emphatically. That's the best scenario. Somebody was on
I like that
with Bobby and Steele the other day on the Bobby Carpenter show, and Steele asked me to like compare this. What is the Miracle on Ice on a college football scale? And I said, probably the Boise State Oklahoma game.
Yeah.
Where like we all were like unbelievable, and the series of plays they ran. I mean, it's not quite Indiana to me. Indiana's a little bit different just because I know it's an unbelievable 2-year story, but I think this happened over 2 years. And at the end of the day, I keep telling people this. I'm not degrading anything Indiana did. It's an amazing story. But I was like, at the end of the day, they were favored against Miami. They were a 6.5 or an 8.5 point favorite. So
at
it's
Miami.
hard to, I think it's more about the job Cignetti did in this roster and everything than it's less of an underdog story to me because it happened over 2 years.
Yeah. I thought the analogy of the 2014 Ohio State beating Alabama in basically in their backyard, beating Alabama in their backyard, and then having to face Oregon, which had the Heisman Trophy winner in Marcus Mariota, and getting it done in that game the way they did, just, almost methodically. And they had mistakes in that game, which made it more of a game than probably it should have been. But I think that's the better analogy, Bill. I agree with you in that regard, because the thing about 2002, for example, with Ohio State, the way it came from behind, or it had all those miracle finishes and things like that to win that, but you only had to win one game. Ohio State had to beat Alabama, and by the way, then they had to go beat Oregon in the Heisman Trophy winner after that, which is kind of what Finland was to a certain extent. I mean, they were in the gold medal game, right?
Yeah, I mean, and they played the Soviet Union relatively tough in pool play. I went back and looked at all of that. Like the Soviet Union outscored people their pool in 5 games, 51-11.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their NHL teams don't score 51 goals in a month.
I must destroy you.
Yeah, like it was a lot of fun, like I said, to put that together. And like when your son, my son obviously plays that position. It was cool to talk and get into the mindset of somebody that played it at that level. Jim Craig couldn't have been more gracious with his time. If you were watching like this week, they were on the Today Show. They were back out in the limelight a little bit with some of those guys on that team. And, you also forget, I wanted to add this up. They were fresh out of college kids.
Right.
And probably in their early 20s, 22, 23. I was like, I wonder if Indiana had an older roster than they did. It was probably pretty close.
Might have. That's what was the analogy I was going to use, is that it kind of reminded me, but this was an all-star game, but they used to play this college football all-star game in Chicago. That was a team of all-stars versus last year's National Football League champion. And it's kind of like college football all-stars versus like the Packers. Who were a year past a Super Bowl win back in '66 or whatever. It was tantamount to that, because you had these youngsters still, really young men, playing a bunch of grown-up dudes who were tough as nails, and wanted to in the final analysis put a knot on your head. And that's what the Soviet Union, I mean, their approach was put a knot on your head playing hockey. Right, Bill? I mean, that's what kind of comes out about them. I mean, like you said, 51-11, that pretty much speaks everything you want to know about that team.
Yeah, and I've watched the other side of it. I watched that other one again last week, the Russian side, where it was like they were, you could equate them to like some of these, I would say in some ways, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, where like the expectation was gold medal. Right. When they lose, they didn't lose in 64, 68, 72, 76. So they had gone for, 5 straight gold medals. And it was just an amazing, progression for that team. And again, you guys know this, it's different times then. There's a generation of hockey fans that don't understand that, that
NHL players didn't get to play in it. Yeah.
Well, and the Russian guys weren't in the NHL, even though they were good enough to play in the NHL. Now you watch an NHL game, there's I'm assuming, I don't watch it as much, but I'm sure there's Russian guys all over the NHL.
Oh, yeah.
There should be.
There are.
Yeah. No, but that's the point. These were grown men. This was their profession, even though they were quote amateurs. Was to be the red team for the Soviet Union. And yeah, what a strange time. It was cool. But that was when also the rules started to finally get broken about the basketball side of things. Yeah, because you had college kids playing for the United States in the Olympics in basketball against grown men from a lot of places, including Russia. And it helped change a lot of things. Hey, what last thing before you go from that? What's Jim Craig doing now? What's he just kind of basking? What's he doing?
He works for Gold Medal Strategies. He's a motivational speaker and a good one. You get off the phone after 20 minutes with him, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
I was ready to go. I was ready to get into my day. And it's been a long week, guys. It's with all the snow days, there was a point this week where I didn't know if it was Wednesday or Thursday. I was like, I've been in this house all week, with the exception of running out a few times. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, super motivational. I know later this year, I don't know exactly what our published date is. Sporting News is going to look at like the 140 greatest moments in sports history because it's our 140th anniversary at Sporting News, and that certainly will be on the list. So
is Buster Douglas beating Tyson on that list?
I'm sure that'll find its way on the list as well. So
how many? Wait, let me pick your in without you giving away scoops. How many college football moments are on that list?
Well, we went through some of those yesterday, and there'll be a lot. So we haven't nailed down the order, obviously, but there was obviously a lot of things to talk about. And I know, this isn't giving it away anything. A couple years ago when college football celebrated its 150th anniversary, we got into all those lists of like top 10 players, top 10 games, top 10 upsets, top 10 Hail Marys. It's kind of like going to end up being a combination of all of those things. So it's hard to sort out. It's a lot of fun, but at Sporting News, take a lot of pride in that. I mean, our publication's been around forever. So
hell yeah, it is.
140 years is forever. And to be a part of that, it's going to be a lot of fun.
When I was sports editor of the Lufkin News in 73 through August of 76, Sporting, I couldn't wait for it to show up, the Sporting News, because one thing I was keeping up with a buddy of mine who ended up in the minor leagues for the San Francisco Giants and played a little while. His name was Ricky Bradley. He was a catcher. And the only place you could, you couldn't call up, you couldn't Google, minor league Pacific Coast League stats or whatever, you had to wait till they showed up in the Sporting News. It was still one of my favorite publications of all time. To me was a true, what they call it, a daily miracle was a newspaper, but the weekly miracle was a Sporting News because they filled that sucker up, man. Yep. And heck, that was before you were born, Bill. You probably don't even remember that, but you could have definitely made a nice blanket to sleep under on a cold night with the Sporting News. It came in thick and heavy. By the way, speaking of lists, that was a good segue for me. You just threw in there. Bill Belichick, no matter what you think of this guy, no matter what you think of his girlfriend, no matter what you think of the job he did at North Carolina this past season and what he's been doing in the portal, I think he and his friends are now learning that the college game, there are a lot of sharks in the college game, and you're not going to come in and change the college game because they're already way ahead of you in terms of talent acquisition. Was not a first ballot Hall of Famer, a guy who won 6 Super Bowls, and as Bo Bishop reminded me, he was part of 8.
Yeah, plus 2.
As an assistant coach with the Giants. Is not a first ballot Hall of Famer this year. I'm stunned by that. Your reaction, Bill Bender of the Sporting News.
I don't understand it at all. I mean, here's the problem, and I don't want to. I hesitate to criticize other people because the writers in this case, I know several of them. I've been around several of them. I mean, I have zero problem with a panel of NFL writers voting on the Hall of Fame, for example, like in this panel, that every name on that list, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. These are really good writers, and it's their ballot at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Same in baseball, by the way. I mean, this is that time of year where you're seeing a lot of baseball writers, a lot of people all three of us know, put their ballots out there. So, but I'll put it to you this way: like, there's some that are just common sense, and Bill Belichick, our own Mike DeCourcy wrote the case about, part of it is the scandals, the Deflategate, the Spygate. It's not enough for me though. Like he has all those Super Bowls. He, even as a defensive coordinator, I mean, you're talking about, in my opinion, probably the greatest football coach in the NFL history. And we're not putting him in on first ballot because that's what's going to be remembered now. And I'll use an example. Terrell Owens was a guy that, I wasn't a huge fan of when he played. I wasn't a huge fan of like some of his antics on the field, but I knew how hard he played on it still.
Mhm.
And if I had a vote, even though like I wasn't, and part of it was because he torched the Packers, but
Yeah.
I would have voted. He was a first ballot guy for me, and that's what we're doing at. And you can get into the baseball side of it, like whatever your feelings are on Barry Bonds. I'm like, he's the best baseball player I've ever seen. So what are we doing at a certain point?
No, what you're saying is, ladies and gentlemen, the sun is hot. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, some things are obvious. Bill Belichick should have been a slam dunk, unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer. And like Bo and I were talking about the old timers they were bringing up that they need to consider, like L.C. Greenwood and Ken Anderson and stuff, good players.
Yeah.
But 40, 30 years ago, when they first were eligible, they didn't get any support hardly at all. And you kind of go, like you're saying, Bill, some things are just should be obvious to everybody, right? I mean, I don't even know. And the thing about it is, how many guys voted for Belichick? How many are on the committee? I'm trying to remember.
Was it 40?
Is it 40 or 50?
You need 40.
Yeah, you need 40
votes out of and you had a couple writers putting pieces out there of like, here's why I didn't vote for Bill Belichick. Okay. Some of it was they would vote for a senior member. There was some controversy around Bill Polian this week about who he did or who he didn't vote for. Jimmy Johnson's obviously hot about it. It's bad. It's bad, guys, when the Pro Football Hall of Fame sends out a release.
Yes.
Bingo.
So, I just
we want to warn you. It's kind of go ahead now.
Right. And I just think this is one of those common sense things where you would vote for. It's kind of like the Heisman, right? Like when you vote for the Heisman, to me, they don't put that public though, right?
No, they'll put it public. They don't put your individual vote public. You can do that if you want to after it's over.
You do it yourself. There are a couple of these awards that we vote on in the fall that somebody will come back to me. Oh, you voted for him? The Bolitnikoff, for example. That's one that I know that people see it. So, but with the Heisman, I'm pretty open about it. Here's why I voted for this guy. And most of the time I voted for the guy that won it anyway. So
I stayed true to my word, by the way. I said it was coming down to the Big Ten championship game between Mendoza and Julian Sayin, and I stuck to my word. I voted Mendoza number 1 and Sayin number 2, but go ahead.
I voted Pavia second, and I think third I voted Jacob Rodriguez. And I
had Jeremiah Love on my ballot, and I did not have Pavia because I think he's really good, but go ahead.
But anyway, that's what I'm saying. Like I throw that out there and then I can defend it. But in a case like that, where it's Bill Belichick, like I get that he's been in the news. I understand that his relationship with Jordan Hudson has no bearing on his Hall of Fame credentials. That's one.
Correct.
And what about the scandals? Do you think do you guys even consider that?
Yeah, I think everybody. I was thinking that was going to be what a lot of people are going to point to, and I guess everybody. Pro football coaches. Back through time, you've heard rumors about all kinds of things that went on in preparation for games. You know what I mean? And in one form or fashion, about locker rooms being bugged. All these kind of things. Bottom line is, you take care of them. You take care of them at the time. I think. New England was penalized for those indiscretions, like the Deflategate and the cameras that were that were recording like a walkthrough drill and things like that. I think they got found out and were penalized. But the bottom line is he still won. Show me the evidence, that how much that gave them an advantage one way or the other. I mean, I think those things are almost like hearsay, things when it comes down to it. If he was cheating and bad, you throw him out of the league, right? They didn't throw him out of the league. You got to keep going back up the plate, which goes into that baseball analogy, which we could talk about forever. But no, I mean, yeah, I think it had to do with some of these guys. But here's the thing, Bill, this is my point. If you're going to vote for him eventually to be in, why wouldn't you vote for, you know what I mean? So if your criteria is he should not be in the Hall of Fame because of this, then that means you're never going to vote for him to be in the Hall of Fame, right?
I
mean, if you're true to your word.
In theory, and that's what we get into this problem with baseball every year, where there's a section with the steroid era guys. There's no way around it. But like to me, it's like as somebody that watched that era of baseball is like, yeah, Barry Bonds is a Hall of Famer, Roger Clemens is a Hall of Famer, etc.
Yeah. Pete Rose.
Pete Rose. I always tell people, you can say what you want about Pete Rose, and I understand the reasons why. I'm not downplaying the why. All I'm saying is the Reds play on Pete Rose way.
Yeah, exactly.
So like it's not in his legacy as a baseman. When you grew up in Ohio, like I did, and you played Little League baseball, and to this day on some level, when a coach would tell you this is how you play the game, they would point to Pete Rose.
Yeah. And here's the thing.
That all the time.
Yeah. At one point, and I'm not sure, I don't keep up with contemporary stats in baseball like I should, but Roger Clemens, I think he might have been the career strikeout leader when he retired. But he was right. But he also was an incredible pitcher. And then Barry Bonds had the career home run number plus season number. And then Pete Rose was a career hits leader. And those guys weren't in your sports Hall of Fame. That's kind of funny when you think about it, right? But they still got to play. Yeah.
Exactly. And it also, there are different views of these Hall of Fames and how important they are. I enjoy it. I mean, is anybody that's been to Canton or I've never been to Cooperstown, honestly.
Yeah. I've been there once.
I can't sit there and lie about that.
Yeah.
That's where I got there. I met Al Michaels because he was inducted at the same time Hawk Harrelson was. My good buddy Jeff Snook, who's been on this show many times and will continue to be, just like my good buddy Bill Bender. But he wrote Hawk Harrelson's book, his autobiography for him. And so we got to go to his induction. But that was that weird year after COVID year when they didn't actually have it at the Hall of Fame. And I'm talking about they separated the media wing guys were on one weekend and the players were on another weekend. But we got to shoot the bull with Al Michaels quite a bit. He did the famous 1981 Ohio State at Michigan game. He called that game. Yeah. And with Art Schleister, remember when he followed Von Broadnax to the end zone and stuff. And but yes, and he's in the Hall of Fame and he's still calling games. That's pretty weird, isn't it, Bill?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And when you have that kind of impact, Al Michaels, obviously. I mean, I've had a chance to talk to him a few times. Once at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, one of those years.
Yeah.
It kind of ties back to what we were talking about earlier. That some of the legendary calls that he has, and I believe he's doing the Super Bowl this year, right? It's him and
Kirk
Collinsworth.
Really? I didn't know that. Yeah, I don't. I'm not gonna dwell on because I have no idea.
Right, but I'm just saying we've had Super Bowls and all these moments and all that. So
yeah,
actually, no, he does Kirk on Thursday night.
He does.
Either way, I enjoy it as much as I can having him around. Tirico's with Collinsworth now. That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
To both of you guys, I mean, you could act like, hey, for each major violation, we're going to vacate a Super Bowl win,
and he still has three or four.
Well, and then it's like the players and every Ohio State student. We won the game. I was there.
Yeah,
you can wipe it away if you think you can.
Yeah,
but
like the Sugar Bowl in 2010.
when they beat
Arkansas, these guys had been found, were going to pay a price, but they were allowed to play in the Sugar Bowl, and against Arkansas. And yeah.
The
Crazy.
Man still has 6.
Man, you don't ever trade your trinkets for tattoos, man. Your trinkets. That'll get you in trouble. Hey, real quick before we move on. Bill, you've done a lot of research. You're a historian. So who is your number one all-time pro football coach if you had to name one guy?
Bill Belichick. I mean, and it's a short list. Like we do a lot of those lists as well. Obviously, it's Sporting News. For me, I mean, if it's not Bill Belichick, it's Bill Walsh, and if it's not those guys,
Bill
it's
Walsh.
Don Shula. Like those are the 3 that come up for me. Is like Belichick, probably defensive mind. Bill Walsh, obviously the 49ers dynasty of the 80s. Don Shula for the longevity. I mean, you forget. As somebody, I was looking back at this, by the way. So Mike Vrabel has a chance to be. I didn't know that Ohio State. I didn't know Don McCafferty, obviously, in Super Bowl 5 is the other Ohio State alum who's won a Super Bowl. Because, that's what I was asking myself when Vrabel was winning the AFC Championship. I said, well, is he going to be the first Buckeye to have a chance to win this thing? Well, McCafferty did in Super Bowl 5 against Don Shula. Or not Don Shula, I'm sorry, Tom Landry.
Tom Landry. And then Don Shula came after, and, those kind of things. So it should have been Don Shula, because Shula had been the coach,
but he went to Miami.
Yeah, and he went to Miami.
That's right. He got his 2 from there. Yeah. So, I mean, Shula for the longevity and the wins total. And then I think, I mean, if you're rounding out that list, and this might not be a popular take, but I think you got to throw Andy Reid in there for the run that not only he had at Philadelphia, but what he's been able to do at Kansas City. And he's done it for a very long time. And then, 5 is obviously Green Bay fan. I mean, they named the trophy after the guy.
Correct.
He's pretty good. Vince Lombardi. So, I mean, those are the guys. I mean, the impressive thing about Lombardi, and I know the playoffs were different then, was 9-1, in the playoffs. Like they were money in the big games.
That was my team growing up, by the way. I told you that. And
the Packers?
Because their quarterback, Bart Starr, was from Alabama.
Yeah.
And, and the old saying goes, I don't think Vince Lombardi, who they give out that trophy, is Vince Lombardi. He was not a first ballot Hall of Famer either, by the way, which is interesting.
It is.
He only, you can throw in there, Bill Belichick only never won a Super Bowl without Tom Brady. Well, I don't think Vince Lombardi won one without Bart Starr, or a championship without Bart Starr. So everybody has the combo going. That's why Joe Gibbs, to me, jumps out with the Washington Redskins, because he won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks. That's crazy when you think about how good that guy was, and the way that team's methodical approach to playing football was kind of like a Big Ten kind of approach. You hammer them with the run game, with a power game, and you throw over the top, and you have a quarterback who facilitates all that, and then you play crusher defense. And so I like Joe Gibbs, for example. He'd be on my list. And a guy you didn't even mention, who was the first guy to win 4 Super Bowls, Chuck Noll. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, Tom Landry is moving further down the list.
Yeah, Tom Landry
might not even make the top 10.
Tom Landry, to me, is almost an anomaly in there. I think he lucked out. Bill, you can argue with me if you want to on this. I think he lucked out from a sympathetic vote standpoint of the way he was ousted by Jerry Jones with the Cowboys. He kind of lucked out there, didn't he? Didn't he get because he was a first ballot Hall of Famer. There have only been 5 or 6 coaches, and 2 of them were in the initial class in 1963. I think it was George Halas and Curly Lambeau, your Green Bay Packers guy.
Right.
They were, but since then, I think there have only been like 3 or 4 coaches who made it on the first ballot, and Tom Landry is one of them. I think Tom Landry was damn good, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But he wasn't Chuck Noll good.
He wasn't top. I mean, like, you asked for a top 5.
Yeah.
That's
so
right.
I said, like, Chuck Noll's probably a little bit of an oversight there for me, but I mean, I was cutting it down to, like I said, Belichick.
No, you have your top 5. I just wanted to hear what it was. Yeah.
Belichick, Shula, Walsh, Reid, Lombardi, Chuck Noll would be next.
Yeah.
That's 6. And that's not, I mean, those are the dynasties that have defined the sport. I think it's tough to, modern day. Jimmy Johnson was as good as anybody. I mean, he got 2 with 2 with Dallas and then one with Miami. So like Miami as in the Hurricanes. And
Yeah.
every team he had from, at Miami was in the national championship hunt. And then obviously it took a minute to build that Cowboys dynasty, but once they were up and running, they lived off that. So I think he's one of those guys. And by the way, he was one of those guys most upset about Belichick not being in. You've seen him all over the podcast circuit this week, lighting up the voters and how angry he is. And that tells you right there. And I don't know that Belichick and Jimmy Johnson were tight when they were coaching against each other or anything like that. But that tells you right there how big of a kind of a flagrant miss this was.
Did you see that Jimmy said, I'm putting the plane back in the hangar. I'm not going. If Bill's not going in, I ain't going.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, Jimmy Johnson reminded me of like a shooting star. I mean, came on the scene with that national championship with Miami, moves to the Cowboys, and then burned out. Ended up with the Dolphins, right? And did he coach Jacksonville one year? I'm trying to remember.
He did not. He was with the Dolphins, and then he's obviously that was it. But they, obviously a really, really good coach in the '90s, and the reason I say Bill Walsh most of the time is you just look at the coaching tree that he had, and you'll get a lot on coaching trees this week, whether it's Michael McDonald or Mike Vrabel, but Bill Walsh had Mike Holmgren, Andy Reid, John Gruden, on and on and on, George Seifert, and he comes off the Paul Brown tree, which Paul Brown's not
correct,
maybe not a top 5 NFL coach all time, but he's a top 5 coach all time.
Yes,
if you take between college and the NFL.
Oh yeah, I mean the AAFC. When he came out of and the Ohio State didn't want him. He couldn't get his job back here, even in 1950-51 after Wes Fessler moved on, and there was a faction that wanted Paul Brown back, and there was a bigger faction that didn't. Yeah. And that's how Woody Hayes. I think people have heard of his name. Woody Hayes was kind of a compromise candidate, and they ended up with Woody Hayes instead of Paul Brown coming back for a second run. Who knows if he'd ever gone to the NFL? I mean, he was in the AAFC. Remember the All-American Football Conference, which is where the Browns started, and built a dynasty almost from the start. I mean, of what he did. Imagine being back in those days, Bill. I mean, one of Paul Brown's claims to fame and claims to fortune is he invented the face mask, or the popular use of the face mask. And the funny line was supposedly for forever, or at least for a long time, he got a nickel for every face mask that was sold in America. Because he basically, I don't know if he had the patent for it or whatever it was, but crazy stuff back then when they were still inventing football, Right. But I digress. Yeah, you're right. I mean, a lot of times you end up like with quarterbacks we were talking about a while ago, Chuck Noll and Terry Bradshaw, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, and Vince Lombardi and Bart Starr. You just get that combo going. That's the key combo for any football team, and you ride it from there. And of course, Joe Montana and Bill Walsh, right? I mean,
Staubach.
Yeah. Well, Staubach and Craig Morton and all those guys they had with the Cowboys, but the bottom line is it's that combo is what carries you places, and that's what stood out to me. Like I said about Joe Gibbs, and Joe Gibbs, he's still running a race team. I mean, that guy, he's a winner, man. It's just crazy. Hey, one last thing before we move on, because I know you got to go here in a minute, Bill. The Mensah thing from Duke, I call it the Mensah thing, the Mensah moment, and I'm not sure it has anything to do with being a genius, by the way. Mensah. But, dude, I've been saying all along, the key to getting a corral around this craziness, which is major, let's just stick with major college football, same way in basketball. But major college football is the key word is contracts. And by contracts, I'm talking about contracts for players to play for your school, not for their NIL contracts. But I was always, we were always all looking at these things going, well, wait a minute. If you're at a school 1 year and you signed a contract with an NIL entity of some sort, you're beholding to that contract. even though you're not beholding to the school.
Right.
And I don't know, Bill, are we sort of in a watershed moment? Do you think in major college football, let's just leave it at football, about you saw what Washington did with their quarterback. They were able to keep him because he had signed a deal, an NIL deal for one of another term. And you couldn't just walk out of Damon Williams. And then we see the Mensah kid from Duke, who's now going to where's he going? Miami, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
but are we in a watershed moment here of, wait a minute, at first you were sort of like, as a school, you're sort of like timid about being basically labeled a bad guy because you're getting in this guy's way of moving on. But I don't know. I think we're going to see more of this. What is your take?
Well, there's 3 stories that have been out in the last 10 days since the season ended that are all kind of intertwined into where we're at in college football and college sports in general. I mean, I'll start off the top with the Bediako college basketball mess.
Yeah.
I'll flat answer it this way. If you go pro, it's different than international guys. Yeah. If you go pro and play in the NBA G League or whatever, and you're drafted, you shouldn't be playing college basketball. Yeah. That may come to college football. You just never know. And in the case that the scenario that happens, let's take I'm not going to use Ohio State, but like a Minnesota linebacker goes to draft, 6th round pick, and says, well, why won't I just go back to school and play for $500,000 instead of getting cut? Yeah. That scenario could unfold. So, but
wait. I've never understood why can you do that in the NBA? Why can players leave for the NBA, not get drafted or whatever, and then come back? Obviously, back in the day, you couldn't have representation. As soon as you signed a representation contract, meaning with an agent,
right,
your deal was over. Now you have an agent in college. Why do you think it's always been different for football than basketball?
Well, that's just it. Like, when I was in college, I've used this example a couple times. As you guys know, I went to OU. Brandon Hunter, the late Brandon Hunter, he was an awesome basketball player at OU.
Yes.
He played for the Celtics for a little bit, but he said he was entering the draft, never hired an agent, went back to school. I think that's the difference now. Is these guys have agents, these guys have handlers, these guys have all this. So that's phase 1. Phase 2, also in the news this week, the tampering at Clemson and Dabo.
We're going to get to that.
Dabo pulling out the receipts. I'm glad he did.
Yes.
Because we've got to button that up. There, Clay was talking about punishments for Belichick earlier. I think, Kirk Ferentz served a tampering suspension a couple years ago. If you get caught tampering, maybe it's a 2 to 3 game suspension for the coach. That'll knock that off.
Yeah.
And then the third one that now I'm getting to Mensah, where contracts is the answer. I've used the analogy, it's not popular, but I've said for years that like college, in this environment, college football is baseball now. It's MLB.
Yes.
It's and Ohio State's not going to complain because they're like the Yankees or the Dodgers, or they're one of those type franchises. And there's nothing to apologize for. That's who they are. Right. But when you sign a contract like Mensah did, you should have to play that contract out. Now we have buyouts. Now we basically have a free agency and trade in college football. It's insane.
Yeah.
Well, sorry I went on long there, but I had to.
Yeah, it's just urban the last couple of days. The overarching theme is enforcement. There is no enforcement.
Well, that's the point. That's what Dabo's saying. Yeah. I mean, as Dabo Swinney, and he made a good point in his thing. Hey, don't tell me about a 6-month or 2-year investigation on this. You ought to be able to do this in an afternoon. I'm paraphrasing what he said because I've got all the facts for you here.
Urban
and you put a guy on the for one of another term, the witness chair, and you go, did you do this? And if he says no, he's lying. Mm-hmm. If he says yes, he was cheating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's pretty straightforward. He has a point, doesn't he, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, it is.
I mean, you either have rules or you don't.
Right. And who's enforcing these rules? So
right.
I think that's the difference with the NFL is if you get caught tampering, you lose draft picks. If you break, how would they work out in the NFL? The Mensah situation would probably be worked out by either a holdout or a trade.
Yeah.
This kid would hold out, which, I have feelings on that too, but at least they're under contract. So like I go back to the Carson Palmer, Mike Brown spat a couple years ago. It was more than a couple at this point when he threatened to retire.
A couple of decades ago, but go ahead.
When Mike Brown was like, all right, you want to retire? Well, we're not going to trade you.
Yeah, we're not going to trade you. Exactly.
Now, the other eye-opening part about it, and I've asked you guys this, is like that happened within the conference.
Yeah.
Like imagine it happening between Penn State and Ohio State, where the Ohio State quarterback gets out of his NIL deal and goes to Penn State. I can't picture it, but I guess it could happen down the line.
But here's the thing. See, James Peoples is going to be playing for Penn State next year.
Correct.
He had NIL deals here. You saw him on commercials. And the point is, you don't make those, if you're smart and you have good representation, you don't make any of those binding for more than a year because you want, because number one, if you have a really good year, you want to get a raise, from an NIL standpoint and stuff. But there's no friction involved there. The friction is involved is when you, Clemson, have made a deal with a guy and gotten him, and he shows up and he's working out with you for 2 or 3 days. And I think he'd already been accepted into school, right? Had he started school? I'm trying to remember this linebacker kid.
Right.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden he's getting phone calls, and Dabo's saying he's getting phone calls from Pete Golding or, whatever. Right.
8 a.m. in the class.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy. When you think about it. How desperate are you for a linebacker? Number one. Go ahead.
Yeah. And, again, some are criticizing Dabo for putting that out there because there's
no way.
In the old days, the not so old days, it was like 10 years ago, when they said this stuff went on, the coaches didn't tattle on each other.
They called each other.
Yeah. But my answer to that is like, this isn't third grade.
Right.
Like if you're doing something wrong, the other coach has every right to call you out in public where, obviously if they catch Pete Golding and this is all verified, he should be punished.
Yes.
He should be punished for multiple games.
Yeah.
And, if this stuff went on in the Big Ten, I remember, as you guys remember, when Urban came into the league, there was
wait, let me interrupt you. You see Clay was applauding there because he's a Mississippi State guy, Mississippi State fan. Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
Maybe
that's why you were applauding. Go ahead.
Maybe Dabo Swinney goes down in the history books as the guy, as that this was the inflection.
Well, no, but see, Dabo was so reluctant to do anything portal wise for the last several years. Now he gets in the portal and gets a guy and feels really good about him, and somebody comes and steals him. That's got to feel really bad. Go ahead. No, you were talking about Urban Meyer days.
No, so when Urban came to the Big Ten, there was a big to do about there was like they called it a gentleman's agreement about recruits and flipping. Think of the world we live in now. And Urban shook that up because he didn't care. He was in the SEC where that was, as you call it, as Clay knows too, that was Tuesday morning in the SEC. Guys flipping and trying to get guys to flip back
before
then.
lunch. Yeah.
So, and I think Urban shook up the Big Ten in that way, and for the better. There was a lot of things that Urban did when he came to the Big Ten that really I would say it's not a stretch to say his arrival brought the Big Ten into where they are now.
Yeah. No doubt. The recruiting.
I think the recruiting, the commitment to you have to get better as an organization. And then you look at the Big Ten now, and there's a lot being written about, hey, they've had 3 straight national champions, which they have. And I think they have 5 to 6 really good organizations going into next year. I mean, you look at the way too earlys, and Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon are obviously top 5. Yeah. And then I think you get into, okay, where's Michigan going to be? I think they'll be better. USC should be better.
Penn State, where's Penn State going to be?
Yeah. I think Penn State's coming.
I do too.
I like that hire right away, and I'm starting to like it more every day.
Yeah.
With Matt Campbell. So you're looking at your top third programs, and that's not even counting like Illinois, Iowa. Your top half is going to be really good.
Yeah. What Urban did was he kind of grabbed the Big Ten And I don't even think he really gave a damn about the Big Ten. You know what I mean? I mean, he gave a damn about Ohio State, but he grabbed the Big Ten by the shirt and slapped it. Like, dude, we're either doing this or we're not.
Up.
Yeah. We're either in this to win it or we're not, you know? And, I agree with both of you guys. I mean, I think that was an eye-opening experience for the Big Ten when Urban Meyer showed up, having fought those battles in the Southeastern Conference. You know, forget about the games, but the battles behind the scenes. He did bring an awakening. I don't know though. So Bill, let's get back to my original premise though. So although I didn't throw it out there, I don't think, but where do you see anything down the road? I mean, you're talking about, you know, who's going to enforce this? The CSC is supposed to be enforcing this, right? The college, what's it called? The College Sports Commission, or whatever it's called. They're supposed to be looking at things. You know, they've got a clearinghouse for any NIL deal over $600. You have to just go through the clearinghouse, but it's been pretty obvious that most schools don't really care about it, or aren't really paying attention to that roadblock or that guardrail to a certain extent. And then we find out, you know, I think Ross Dellinger wrote a really good story about it, but, you know, you were around down there too. You know, the meeting among the powers that be in college football or college sports, but definitely football in and around the national championship game about where the sport is going in that regard, even the parameters for how many teams are going to be in it down the road. Well, obviously it's going to be 12 again next year because they couldn't really get their act together. But everybody in the room is waiting for Petiti and Sankey to get their houses together to be for leadership. And in fact, it looks like they've gone opposite directions now again, or at least it's kind of like Europe, you know, when they have these big European get-togethers, you know, and to make certain rules, and then one country won't go along with it, so it blows it all up. But my point is, I'm asking you, do you think this is eventually going to get there's going to be some entity gain control of enforcing rules like Dabo is talking about? Do you think that's going to happen?
I hope so. I mean, in terms of the playoff and the disagreement between the Big Ten and the SEC, I don't understand it. I think we should go to 16. I think it's a missed opportunity for college football. You know, you had people comparing Indiana to any number of that kind of brings what we've been talking about full circle. You have Indiana being compared to the Miracle on Ice and NC State Houston in '83 and those type of miracle stories. You had 30 million people watch the championship game. And I went back and looked. So like in 1983, it's another one of my favorite documentaries is the NC State Houston one.
Yeah.
1983, NC State beats Houston. 2 years later, the NCAA tournament expands to 64.
Yeah.
And they get a banger of a first game with Georgetown Villanova in 85, and on we go. I love college basketball too. By the way, this year's college basketball tournament is going to be off the hook with all these really good teams.
Yeah.
So college football missed an opportunity here where you could say, you have this great game. Following Tuesday, you're like, hey, we're going to 16 now.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to, we can tweak the three of us could probably have a little bit different how we would format it. But I think in general, the 5-11 model works. You take your four highest and then you straight seed it, put the first two rounds on campus. It's just so common sense to me. This is how you should do it.
Oh, yeah.
And also, you know, the one thing we're all looking at, and this is my PSA every year, the championship game is until January 25th next year. Maybe I'm being a diva of a writer, but you're tired by then.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, like, just that big layoff between the first round and, like, what was Ohio State's layoff, guys? 25 days?
25 days.
25 days. You can't wait 25 days to play a football game. I'm sorry. Not if you're a top 4 seed. So we've got to do a couple things like that. But in general, they missed an opportunity to go to 16. I think they'll get there eventually. But I can't wrap my mind around and don't understand the 24 teamer. I don't want to see it.
Throw that away. I mean, you can't even, when you say 24, it doesn't even make sense to you. You know what I mean? I mean, just from a number standpoint. And basically that would be 1/5. No. Almost 1/5 of the of the major college football teams would make the playoff. I mean, this isn't like basketball, like Bill's talking about. This has a physical jeopardy component to it that basketball doesn't have. No. But I think 12 to me is too big. But I like you said, Bill, I like those first round games on college campuses. If you got to 16 and you made the first 2 on college campuses, that would be boffo too, but
24 teams, if it was assuming that 23 of them would be, we'll do it this way. I'm not the greatest at math, but I did do it. If there are 67 Power 4 schools and then you throw Notre Dame in as 68,
right?
24 out of 68 is 35%.
Yeah.
It goes down a little bit because you're putting a G6 school in.
Right.
But you want 30%. Then what does the regular season mean? That's always been my question. Like,
well, that's the thing. You don't want to get rid of that. I mean, that's the point. You can't throw, what's that old line? You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I'm with you 100%. But what does the regular season mean? It'll be posing. It'll be, Indiana did not play Murderers Row in his first 3 non-conference games this year. Obviously, they won the championship. Why wouldn't everybody schedule like that now? Everybody.
I would.
For example.
I would until they change. Well, and here's the point. Like, I'm glad you brought that up. One, Texas should have been in the playoff. Texas would have been in the playoff and would have been ranked higher than Oklahoma had they played like Texas State instead of Ohio State.
Correct.
There's no doubt in my mind.
Correct.
That they would be ranked whatever they're ranked. So let's look at Ohio State next year. You're playing Indiana, Michigan, Oregon, USC, Texas. That's 5. I look at it this way. That's 5 possible games. Not saying they will, but that's 5 games that you could, in theory, lose.
Yes. Jeopardy.
I don't think they will. I'm not saying they would. But let's say Ohio State would go 9-3 against that schedule next year.
Yeah.
Are we letting a 10-2 team in over that? If you are, then we're admitting that all we're doing is counting wins and losses.
Yeah, to a certain extent, and appeasing. I mean, Alabama getting in this year, in my opinion, was a joke. Notre Dame should have been Alabama out. To me, it was never an argument about Miami because Miami beat Notre Dame. You understand what I'm saying? So it's crazy.
Flipped it, but they flipped it at the last minute. Like, if Notre Dame fans out there, they have every right to be like,
"Oh, absolutely,
like, what are you doing?" And I honestly think that Notre Dame team, the way they were playing, they would have gave Indiana a run if they would have.
Oh, absolutely.
They would have gave Ohio State, or I don't think they would have beat Ohio State, or they didn't beat Miami, so we can't argue that. But had they caught Indiana in the tournament, and that's what it is now, guys. It's a tournament now. It's not a playoff. This is a college football tournament. This year proved that.
Yeah, but this year also proved, finally, for everybody, the SEC. One of these things is not like the other. I mean, that line is gone. One of these things is not as good as the other, which is, and I'm just before you go, Bill, is this a moment in time, do you think, for the Big Ten, or do you, like you talked about the staying power of several of these programs now who clearly have their act together both on the field and off the field? I'm talking about in the Big Ten. Do you see this having staying power for another half a decade or a decade? I mean, from the amount of money involved, the NIL strength of the NIL situation for several of these programs in the Big Ten, looks to me like it's got staying power. What's your take on that?
Oh, I think so. I mean, obviously the top half in particular, we mentioned all those schools earlier, and that's not even like counting, like Iowa will be solid as long as Kirk Ferentz is the coach. And they're run like, as you guys know, I'm a big NFL guy too. I think you look at, it's not just the players. It's not just the coaches. It's your organization. It's your alumni. It's your boosters. It's why, like, when the Steelers hired Mike McCarthy, I was like, it'll probably work out. I mean, he may not win the Super Bowl, but they'll still be good.
Yeah.
Like anybody acting like the Steelers aren't going to be good. It's a winning organization. The Ravens, same deal. They just do things the right way. So like your Ohio State, your Notre Dame's, Penn State, Michigan, the programs that are committed to doing this way and have the money and the means to do it, they're always going to be good. But I still think, and I'd love to hear like Ryan Day talk about this, or Kirby, the guys that are in charge of these programs. It still comes down to talent development. It still comes down to getting your kids to stay. And I still believe it still comes down to putting your kids in the league. Whereas, when we sit down Sunday and watch the Super Bowl and get through all the commercials, at the end of the day, like for Ohio State, the best infomercial is watching JSN go out and do the things that he's going to do. By the way, he was Sporting News' Offensive Player of the Year this year.
Yeah.
And, when you see that and how good he's been for the Seahawks, it kills me that Green Bay didn't draft him. But, yeah, I mean, that's what I still think the end game is. But how much does that change now with NIL and being able to stay in school? That scenario I mentioned where you could maybe stay in school, where quarterbacks are making more in college than they are in the rookie in the NFL.
Rookie contract, yeah, exactly.
That's
Absolutely.
the crazy part to me, that I don't know how sustainable that is.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And the thing about Ohio State, too, is that I like how it has evolved from the actual use of the portal and things. I mean, Ohio State is going to be basically a year older. A year older average age wise, roster wise, this coming year than it was a year ago, this past season. That's kind of that's having an awareness of kind of what, other teams have kind of gone to too. I mean, Indiana was a quote old team, right? With guys who are grizzled veterans one way or the other. And Ohio State is playing the game and evolving with the game as it goes. And by the way, they take no second seat to anybody else from an NIL standpoint. But man, I'm not going to name the guy, but the guy that said that Indiana bought its national championship with its NIL stuff, and I'm just going, they weren't even the richest NIL team on the field in the national championship game. That was one of the worst takes I've ever seen by anybody. Before we go, what's your take on that, Bill?
I think, Indiana, they kind of did, because that's where we're at now. But I don't have a problem with it.
My point is the other team had a bigger payroll than Indiana did, is my point. It was a bad point to make.
I agree, because they'll say, well, Ohio State bought it 2 years ago. Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
sure.
I guarantee you Texas spent more money than Ohio State did that year.
Texas spent money. Everybody says like a $30 million price tag on a national title. Yeah, that's what you're going to pay now.
Yeah.
So that goes for me, Tim. That goes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, me too, man.
I'm like Texas Tech is spending all this money.
Yeah,
and they won a Big 12 championship.
Yeah.
So there will be plenty of teams that spend all this money and don't win. The reason they won to me is Curt Cignetti took a bunch of 2.5-star guys, and they were more experienced than most. They had an average of 4.3 years of college experience. We talked about that.
Right.
And
crazy.
All of the James Madison guys hit. And Fernando hit.
Yeah.
And his quarterbacks have hit. And it might not hit every year. It didn't hit every year at places like Colorado. It doesn't hit every year for, like Sonny Dykes imagine had Sonny Dykes beat Georgia.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't hit all the time, but it will hit some. And I think everybody's saying, well, who's the next Indiana? How do you do this? There's not a lot of Curt Cignettis out there. I think he's the engine in this. And
absolutely.
I said this on one of the shows on 97.1 this week, that when they play at Indiana next year, Ohio State, that's biggest game of the regular season, biggest game in Indiana's college football regular season history next year. Amen. Because you could say, hey, it wasn't a fluke. We're going to beat you again. Yeah. Or Ohio State comes in and says, nah, we're still the big kid on the block. So I can't wait for that game. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's Bill Bender. That's Clay Hall over there. I'm Tim May. Man, Bill, we totally appreciate you joining us, my man. We could have gone on and on because I have 10 more points I wanted to bring up in that genre. But we'll save those for another day. But Bill, enjoy your kids' days off, man.
I will. That's why I'm hiding in the basement. I'm going to hide for a little bit longer. No, thank you guys. And anytime, thanks for having me on.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall. Until next time, we'll see you then. Shh. By the way, Clay has left the room. I wanted to let you folks in on a real bargain out there in the world of simulator golf. The Back Nine Golf, which is located at 2820 Fishinger Road in Upper Arlington, has a hell of a holiday box available to you right now. The value is nearly $300, but your price is $150 if you jump online. That's almost 50% off if you jump online at Columbus at theback9golf.com. That's their email address. Their website is theback9golf.com/Columbus upper Arlington OH/. That's a long address, but just write it down a couple times watching it. And you can also call them at 614-362-7888. Parentheses putt, PUTT. But the bottom line is one of the new ultra modern simulators that you can find in the greater Columbus area, and it's really right there in the middle of Upper Arlington. I know Tito Thidoff and I hopped in there the other day. I think it was 16 degrees outside. There was snow and ice everywhere, and we played Pebble Beach, and we did it in less than an hour. So it's one of the great bargains going out there. And with this holiday box, you get 1 month of Birdie membership. You get Back Nine branded golf balls. You get cozy Back Nine beanie, and you get premium Back Nine towel. So that's a hell of a deal, because basically it's unlimited golf. It's 24/7. You get a code to get you in the door, and then you can go from there. And it's definitely fun. It's the premises are pristine. I know we had a great time. We even played closest to the hole, a few shots on number 7, famed number 7 short par 3 at Pebble Beach the other day, and had a great time doing it. So if you're looking for that last minute gift for a golfer that you love, or yourself that you love, that you're a golfer, nothing wrong with giving yourself a gift at this time of the year. That's the Back Nine Golf holiday box, and it's only a limited time. And as you can imagine, there are only a few available. Quantities are tight. So check in at theback9golf.com.